Alrighty. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world today. Thank you for joining. Today we are going to talk about what's new in CA Performance Management 3.1 and CA Virtual Network Assurance 2.1. And with me is the CA Performance Management product team. So I'm going to turn the call over to Jeremy Rothbach, who will take you through the agenda and let you know what you can expect today. So thank you for joining. And Jeremy, I just passed you the ball.
Excellent, Sue. Thank you. And we hit the record button?
Yes, I hit the record button. I'm sorry, I forgot to cover something. Everyone that's on the call, we will be taking questions online. They will pause and ask for questions. You will have to hit *6 to unmute your line. Everyone has been muted by default. And if you do not want to ask your question verbally, but you have a question, you can ask it in the Q&A box up in the right-hand corner of the WebEx. Thank you. Sorry, Jeremy. Go ahead.
No problem. Thanks again, Sue. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another community webcast regarding the latest release of CA Performance Management along with CA Virtual Network Assurance. I'm going to just jump right into this because I know you guys probably want to get to the content as quickly as possible here. A brief agenda. These are the hot topics that are in the new release. So our entry into the SD-WAN assurance space will be covered. As always, we're always trying to improve the operational user experience within the product, so we'll cover a lot of great enhancements regarding how you use the product, how you solve problems faster. We'll cover open API third-party interoperability, and that is our ability to leverage other management systems that you have within your architectures to just get the best data that you can and leverage that data to get great operational insights. Cover our enhanced Cisco ACI monitoring from the last release, and then our disaster recovery procedures. So why don't we get started here? Just a few items just to let you guys know exactly what's out there for you to leverage. If you haven't seen it already, there is an ebook out there for the top 5 reasons to upgrade to the latest release. And I can actually probably put that in the chat window now for you guys, the URL for that. So please take some time to download that and read it. There are videos with every enhancement to see exactly how deep the enhancement goes and watch exactly how to use that enhancement in your environment. And if you haven't already seen some of the great webcasts we've been holding for the past couple months, our CA Performance Management Tech Series is still running. So you can definitely watch replays of the sessions that were already held, as well as register for upcoming sessions that we will be hosting. And I'm putting that URL for registration in the chat window as well. So go ahead and register for those if you haven't yet, and watch any past recordings you may have missed. So real quick, I just want to talk, if you haven't already seen it from the CA Performance Management Tech Series, just quickly talk about our vision on leveraging all the great performance data that we gather and do analytics on around the CA infrastructure management, network, and application performance management ideas we have around collecting information. So we do have all this great domain expertise when it comes to application performance, infrastructure performance, network performance. But the idea and the vision around this is to take all this great information and combine it so you guys get the best operational intelligence and insights as you can into how your customers are using your applications across all that infrastructure, so you can understand exactly the digital experience that they are living at the moment. So we recognize the need to leverage all this great data from all these different sources across application, across infrastructure, and across networks to normalize all this data from these different domains. So because we address apps and systems and networks, we want to add context to this data. It's not just about managing and doing performance data gathering on this, we have to take this data and contextualize it. So you can perform advanced capabilities, machine learning, and operational assistant workflows to better predict the user experience, whether that could be anomalies or patterns detected or trends of where capacity or usage may be going. Putting all that information into out-of-the-box dashboards to drive exceptional business outcomes. So our vision for analytics looks like this. You will hear more information from CA in the next coming months regarding our analytics vision. But I just wanted to take some time to help you guys understand exactly where we're going with this vision and how networks plays a very significant part of this. And that's where we turn to the CA performance management product. We all know who are on the phone now that this is a very highly scalable, very comprehensive network performance monitoring solution. This is that part of that three-stack layer of that analytics vision that we talked about, gathering all that network data and pushing that data up and comparing it to how the infrastructure, whether it's the servers or storage or cloud, and how it's hosting those applications, as well as the application performance experience. Taking all that great data and providing, exceptional analytics so you can solve problems quicker. So Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you now as we dive into our first enhancement, which is SD-WAN.
Great, thanks Jeremy, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening again. Thanks for joining us. 3.1, it's a great release. Definitely started to move the ball in some key areas and provided, in my opinion, a heck of a lot of value, which myself and my colleagues are going to talk about for the next 45 minutes or so. But first thing I want to talk about this morning is SD-WAN, and 3.1 signifies, as Jeremy stated, our entrance into the SD-WAN market, which has become, it's been booming, to say the least, where lots of new vendors are emerging, lots of management solutions are emerging, and I want to talk a little bit about why ours is different and what we're trying to do, and ultimately, how we feel we can help you with your SD-WAN deployment and how to make the best of what you're trying to implement. So why are people choosing to use SD-WAN, and why do we need SD-WAN monitoring? So we know that cloud is expanding, right? SaaS services, the use of off-premise, where on-premise used to be more popular, is becoming more and more ubiquitous. The additionally desire to cut costs is leading enterprises to look at alternative solutions for their WAN access rather than we all know MPLS can be expensive. The amount of throughput you get can be insufficient for today's cloud use cases, online storage, all of those types of things that are going to transfer a lot of data. So when you're expanding that and moving beyond MPLS, you introduce a certain level of non-guaranteed performance, basically. You're getting what you pay for, essentially. So the ability to monitor and understand the traffic and the performance that are going across these non-guaranteed connections is critical. You need to understand how those links are performing in order to understand how you can grow or expand your WAN capacity needs to meet what your goals are. It sure adds a lot of complexity too, right? Anytime you add the software-defined moniker to something, that means that there's some level of intelligence occurring that's programmatic. So within the SD-WAN world, you have your overlay, and your overlay is what is going to basically make routing decisions. It's going to come in, and based on performance, it's going to reroute traffic. As simple as that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of complexity involved, and the ability to get from those decisions, understanding the actual traffic and understanding why those decisions are made, well, that's the real key. If you don't understand that, then you don't really understand what's going on within your SD-WAN deployment, and you're not going to be in a position to take advantage of and be as efficient in your use of SD-WAN technologies as you could be. SD-WAN, we know, as I just mentioned, it introduces a level of intelligence, something that's going to automatically make decisions. Anytime that happens, we as human beings, we get a little bit anxious, and we want to make sure that those decisions are being made appropriately and that the data being used to drive those decisions is accurate. After all, it's only going to do as good of a job as the accuracy of its measurements, right? So having that that additional monitor, the monitor of the monitors, if you will, keeping an eye on what the SD-WAN is doing and why it's doing it, and then being able to provide you with insights into why those are occurring. Insights not only to help you validate that the decision made was correct, but to affect future decisions as well, understanding the types of traffic, the traffic flow. If you're trying to move from one medium to another, it's important to understand these things so that you can appropriately plan and at the same time guarantee your service level for your users across what could potentially be non-guaranteed connections. And finally, and I think most important, this is going to require a lot of planning. Customers I've been working with, it's a rollout. You don't go from 0 to 100% overnight. This is more of a slow rollout where it's trialed at certain WAN sites and then expanded over time. So a solution that's going to help you not only manage the day-to-day operations of what you're doing and solve all those other issues above, but also allow you to understand and plan for how you can better roll out, what the health is of those sites you're rolling out to, and what that impact is going to be across the rest of your infrastructure. That's really critical. You're going to need to understand that to be able to make decisions again and be able to effectively plan and maximize your ROI on the SD-WAN solution. So what do we bring to the table as far as SD-WAN assurance? How are we tackling it? So we're going after it in a vendor-agnostic way. We want to provide basically visualizations from a dashboard layer that really focus on the what is occurring. So basically looking at the overlay or the control plane information. And then from there, users can drill into more detailed context experiences that will basically, that's where the differentiation in the vendors will go. So in 3.1, our focus has been on Viptela, and we're going to be looking to expand that into IWAN and other vendors as well. But our goal is to maintain the dashboard consistency across those vendors. So what we're doing is we're taking an approach where we want to look at the state of the WAN. We want to be able to provide the understanding of what the SD-WAN deployment looks like, what its relative health is, allow you to do faster triage by being able to understand the data better, provide a more simplistic user experience to ensure that your operations team and others are able to support this technology, and be able to get very quickly into the underlay, into the rich S&P metrics and the flow metrics that are going to provide a level of detail that you're not going to get out of the control plane. So being able to tie those two together is critical. So within our SD-WAN deployment, we're using our virtual network assurance solution. That's driving the understanding, the collection, the collating, the correlation of the underlay of the overlay information. So you fire up VNA, you point it at your controller, and you're going to pull in automatically site hierarchy based on what's been deployed. You're going to pull in the Viptela case, the V-edge routers. You're going to pull in the tunnels. You're going to pull in your SLA policies, and then you're going to begin to get things created that don't actually exist within the vendor's SD-WAN solution, but are instead abstractions that we've created that are going to let you understand the data better. They're going to let you make better decisions without having to pour through thousands of pages of flow information, for example. They're going to boil things up to a simpler health indicator to let you know how things are performing, that you're going to be able to track, trend, and project over time. So we have our weather map view that's going to provide your site-to-site connectivity. A couple ways we're going to let you look at this. We're going to let you look at this based off of tunnel connectivity. So your VPN connection between your sites and your data centers. You have to visualize that. And we're going to aggregate that as well and allow you to hover over to get more detailed insights. Large WANs going to have a lot of connectivity, lots of links. And we didn't really want to make a bowl of spaghetti on the screen. So we're really trying to stay focused, provide that aggregate health. Is it important? Do I need to look at it? If so, what's going on? Why is it important? You're going to be able to really understand the the performance and the potential customer impacts at each of your WAN sites. You'll have full assurance across the entirety of your WAN that connectivity is good, that the various business processes will be able to run because the traffic is meeting your SLAs. And we're going to provide a lot of interactivity in these views as well. Dynamic health indicators, the legends are interactive. You're able to change the metric within the legend to understand the health across multiple metrics for both your tunnels and your sites and your application class information. So basically your voice traffic from site A to site B. Really be able to look at the data the way that you need to look at the data. And primarily be able to use this as a launching point. Easily find problems and then jump in to understand them. And one of the key ways we're doing that is we're using our time bar and our new health charts. Brian's going to go into these in a little more detail, so I'm not going to talk about the mechanics, but I'm going to talk about what this is showing you. So in this view, we're looking at tunnel information, and this is telling me from site A to site B, I have a particular tunnel. This happens to be within my gold class, and that tunnel is going to have performance. It's going to have latency, it's going to have loss, it's going to have jitter. We're going to be able to provide those metrics from point A to point B, and we're going to provide them at a health roll-up as well as individual metrics to be able to drill in and understand, again, very quickly, what is the state of my communications between site A and site B? Is there any actions I need to take? If so, if you notice, everything's a hyperlink. Drill into context pages, get detailed SMP statistics, get detailed flow information, and really unpack the traffic that's going across that wire to understand why you may be having performance problems at any given time. Site-to-site connectivity, again, with our time bar. This is really a big focus for us. Again, we wanted to simplify what can be a relatively complex technology. Again, it sounds easy when you abstract it, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So in order to provide yourself and operations and capacity with easy ways to ingest that data, we've had to make some new visualizations. So we have these new time bar health indicators. So what this is doing is this is looking at basically trend data. So we're looking at, in this case, it's 3 metrics. So imagine this is actually 3 trend lines. Instead of drawing 3 trend lines and then goal lines and having to have your brain figure out is things above and below a trend line, is it meeting a goal or not, we removed all of that, and we're going to focus simply on, for each point in time, were you within your defined thresholds or were you outside of your defined thresholds, which is really what matters. When things are good, great, there's no need to go further. But when there's a problem, you can hover over. The hover over is going to tell you exactly which metric is contributing to poor performance, and it's going to allow you to get an understanding of when that's occurring, and then again, drilling into context information. And we've tried to provide a lot of that in SD-WAN. So we have our tunnel. You can go there for detailed tunnel statistics. You have your source and destination sites, which will bring you to site pages for each of those. You have your source and destination devices, your source and destination interfaces. All of this information allows you to move very quickly from one point to another, interweaving the underlay and the overlay together, but doing so in a way that's easy to understand and presents itself simply to operations and end users to be able to go and solve problems. And then we're going to obviously focus on top-end, best, worst performance, being able to drill down to underlay. So which tunnels are having the worst latency, which tunnels are above my threshold for jitter. Things like that, being able to look at that data in certain ways, being able to focus on which interfaces are performing poorly and comparing that to, again, to which VPN tunnels are performing poorly. And being able to do those correlations, that's what this solution is all about. It's about providing you very simply with the data that you need to make decisions, to triage, to solve problems, and to plan your SD-WAN deployment so that you can maximize your ROI. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Brian Jackson, who is going to talk about some of those mechanics I mentioned regarding our operational UI enhancements. There's a bunch of them in 3.1. I'm really excited about what Brian's going to show you guys.
Great, thanks, Jason. And if you could let me know if you can see that slide now.
Looks good.
Okay, great. So as Jason had just mentioned, the team did a ton of really great work on the SD-WAN initiative and came up with some great ways to visualize data. And we realized, hey, we shouldn't just keep this in the SD-WAN area. Let's make this available throughout the product. We're always trying to make it easier to use. We're trying to make the workflows more intuitive. We're trying to make it easier to digest the vast amounts of data that we're ingesting into the system. So what I'm going to talk about today are some views and go into a little bit of detail on them that come out with this release. We're going to talk about things called the health card view, and you can see that's in the upper portion of the screenshot to the right there. So it's an easy way to understand in context how many items are in certain states, whether it's a good state, a bad state, or an in-between state. We're going to talk about that time bar view where you have some great information on severity of degradation along with the trend, how basically how wrong for how long something has been. And then we're going to look at some hierarchical views that make it easier to navigate inside the system. So that's the only slide I have for you here. Let's jump right into some software here. There we go. Our great ACI console we'll be talking about in a little bit. The first thing that we're going to look at here is the hierarchical inventory view. So many of you are very familiar with our group hierarchy, right? You can hover over administration and go into group, and then you can select a group, and then you can select, hey, what's inside this group, and then, hey, what are the children of things inside this group? So there's a lot of clicks to get to the data, and it's hard to kind of search inside of that. In addition, we have our out-of-the-box inventory, which you can get to through our great global search feature up in the upper right-hand corner, but it doesn't necessarily give you the context of what group it's in. So what we decided to do was to create the best of both worlds. So it's the marriage of our group view along with our inventory view. And you can see right now my context is all groups here. But if I came down here and said, for example, oh, I want to look at the East Coast, it's going to then, in context, say these are the devices in this East Coast group hierarchy. So I have 3 sites in here. Each one has a switch. And, oh, here are the children inside of these devices that are inside this group context. So let's take a little bit a look here behind the scenes, what makes this up. So you can see the type of view is called inventory hierarchy, okay? And it lives under the heading of navigation and lists. So I know sometimes when you're creating your own dashboards, it's a little bit hard to find the exact view that you want in that because we have so many really great views. So I'm just going to call that out for you so you understand. So if you want to create this view in your environment, it's under the navigation and lists heading, and the actual view type is called the inventory hierarchy. What I can do here is define what I want to see inside the inventory portion here. Do I want devices and components? Do I just want devices? Do I just want components? And what I showed you initially was I want devices and components with the interface component. What you'll see here is that there's a secondary component type. So if I wanted to, for example, I could come in here and put in virtual. I'm going to put in a virtual interface. I'm going to go ahead and save this view now. And you'll see now I have my devices, and then I have the interfaces, and now I have my secondary components as well down here. So it's a great way to be able to look at several different pieces of information. And again, it's scoped down into your appropriate grouping mechanism over here. So when I click on here, it's going to change over here. So that's a quick look at the inventory view that we wanted to show you. The next thing that I'm going to show you is the hierarchical scorecard with health. And basically, this is a group scorecard that we're familiar with, but we've done some tweaking to it. And the tweaking that we've done is add the ability to have a health column and to really show the hierarchy inside the scorecard view. So I'm going to be able to see a group then the subgroups underneath it, and then finally the components that I'm actually looking at. So here's an example of this for all groups. So I can see here I have all groups, and then I have 3 groups here with each of the components that I've selected underneath it. So it's a very easy to view navigation tool, so I can understand, oh, okay, in my Boston, I have these particular devices or items. In Los Angeles, I have these. And in my bill group, I have these. What's also really nice about this view is you can see that we have this new item called a health indicator, okay? And this health indicator, you can see, is showing at the aggregate levels as well. So I'm looking at my all groups, I'm looking at each individual group, and then I'm looking at each individual item. So it's a great way to look at how is the health of these items that I'm looking at not only a component level, but again at an aggregated level as well. So let's take a little bit of a look behind the scenes on this one. So again, it's our typical group scorecard. The IM group scorecard table is the exact name here. You pick a metric family to apply this to, and then you can select metric fields to be displayed. So in here you see I have 4 different metrics displaying. Those are the 4 different columns that I see in my report here. I can decide what direction I am going to sort them, which one is my most important, which metric I'm going to sort on the direction. But right here, this health indicator, this is one of the new features, okay? And I can decide whether I'm going to show or hide this. And what I'm going to do is calculate this health metric by these metrics that I have selected to be inside the table. What I can also do is assign a weight to these metrics. So if I have a metric that's more important than the other metrics in determining whether something is healthy or unhealthy, I can increase the weight to make it more likely to bubble up. So for example, when I'm looking at interface metrics, if I'm looking at utilization in, out, and average, and then I look at percent errors is always going to be a fraction of the value of those other metrics. So what I can do is adjust the weight on that particular metric. It's a value between 0 and 3. 0 means no weight whatsoever. 1 is normalized. 2 is twice as important, and 3 is 3 times as important. And that will then affect my ability to influence that health indicator gauge that we see inside the report. Just like all of our other views, these views take advantage of our ability to do time filtering based on time zone, business hours. We can apply context, whether it be dynamic, or we can assign a fixed context to them as well. So that's a quick view of our scorecard with health. You can see here I have the percent errors. That's the one that I had weighted more importantly than the others. We can see it bubbling up here at the health indicator. The next thing that we're going to take a quick look at is this time bar view. So if you're familiar with our application delivery analysis product, you've seen these types of graphs before. And what these are trying to solve is we have really great views that show us the health of something, like we just looked at the health card view. And we have some really great abilities to show you trends in reports. But combining the two was often a little bit difficult to visualize, and that's what this is trying to solve here is, for my time period that I have defined, for the metrics that I have defined, in this case CPU utilization, over that time period, how was this particular item performing for this metric? And it colors it appropriately. You can see if I had inside our demo environment, we clearly have a polling issue here because at regular intervals we're not getting data. But then you can see that we have, whether it's normal, whether it is a abnormal condition. And when you hover over this, it will tell you what those thresholds are. So it's very easy to come in and see, how degraded is it at that particular time. And if we go ahead and edit this view, you can see that right here, this is where I define what I want those color-coded values to be. So whether it's critical, major, minor, and then those particular values. Right now, I define a metric family and a single metric value to create this. Again, the same type of criteria here for time range and context and things like that. But what's really nice about this, if I come up here and if I edit this entire dashboard, I've created this particular view with CPU. And I think everyone's aware, but you have the ability to copy these to very easily create dashboards. You don't have to go back into the navigation pane to find it. But if I come in here and copy it and then configure it, instead of CPU, if I come in here and pick memory, for example, and I'm just going to keep the same settings here, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. So now I have, the same context here, the same time range, but now I'm looking at two different metrics. But what's really nice about these views, just like in ADA, is these are all time aligned. So if I look here, I can see my 1045 poll, I can see my 11, my 1115, my 1130. So this is a very easy way and a quick way to do visual correlation across metrics. Is this one metric possibly affecting other metrics? Okay, and I can just do that very easily by copying the dashboard, putting in the metric, and then saving it. And now I'm looking at these across as well. So again, just a workflow kind of step, something that our customers use in ADA all the time is now applicable to any metric that we're collecting inside of the system. And now let's look at the health card view here. This is something that you might have seen as Jason was talking about the SD-WAN stuff. It was a great way to visualize in that use case things like, application paths and tunnels and how many were performing well or not performing well, and by what metric were they being measured by. And that's exactly what we're showing here. So for example, I'm looking at, for the interface metric family, I'm looking at utilization in, I'm looking at utilization out, and I'm looking at average utilization. And when I look at this, I can see that I have 28 items where the utilization in is fine, and 0 items where the minor, major, or critical criteria have been met. In addition, for all groups here, I have no data in the interface metric family for 18 items, which is to be expected. Typically, you would change this filter to be more applicable to the metrics that you're looking at. One of the usability things that I like to point out here, which is very nice that the team did, is you can see that down here, because I have items inside of each of these circles, the circles are very colorful, they're very easy to see. Whereas when I come up here, when I don't have any items inside of the circles, they have kind of a wash over them because there's nothing to see to draw my attention to, right? Because I don't have any critical items or major items or minor items. They're all normal. So when I look up here, I want to see the green all normal and know, okay, everything's fine. But down here, when I'm looking at availability, a different metric that I'm measuring on, I can see that I have something in every single one of those threshold conditions, so it draws my eye to it. So it's just one of those little tweaks that you might not see initially when you use it, but it helps in the usability tremendously. So let's take a quick look here at how these are constructed. So you see I can choose my metric family for these cards, and then I can choose which fields I want to, or which individual metrics I want to have within those views as well. And then I can calculate that metric again. Do I want it by component or by device? And then I have the ability here to do my individual thresholds for each of the metrics. So for my utilization in, here's my minor, major, and critical. I can see 70, 80, 90. You can see utilization average. I changed this to 10, 15, 20 so that I can populate all these fields for the demo. So again, you have complete control over what the thresholds are per metric, and that's what's going to display. One of the other things that I wanted to show you in here is you saw that those were increasing values, which gave me these types of thresholding here. For something like availability, it's kind of a reverse sort, right? Because things that are highly available, 100% available, are good. So the views are smart enough to understand that. So if you simply put in your thresholds in the opposite order, it will color them accordingly. So you can use this as an availability monitor as well. So I just wanted to point that out very quickly for you here. And then I have one more thing that I wanted to show you today. So under the reports, if I go to the on-demand report templates, we have one now that's called, and this is a little bit of a mouthful, it's chart per metric by single item. And that'll make sense as we look at it here. So I've pre-created this. I'm going to go ahead and edit it for you. And what we're basically doing here is I'm saying for this particular group, so in my ticks change group, what I want to look at by device are these metrics. And you can see that these metrics are cross-metric families. So I have availability from the availability metric family. I have CPU utilization from the CPU metric family, and memory utilization from the memory metric family, okay? So I've created those. I said I want to see them by device. I'm going to come back up here. You'll see that, you know, I chose 3 different metrics that I want to look at. And the layout of this report requires a little bit of thinking when you put it together. So, and you'll see that when I run this report and show it to you. But what I'm saying is I want to have 3 columns on this page. And each of these columns is going to correspond to one of those metrics that I had described down there, availability, CPU, and memory. And when I run this now, let me go ahead and run it. Now you're going to see for inside this group, for this particular, this Michigan site is actually the name of a router item. So I have Michigan site, I have the availability, I have the CPU, and then I have the memory. Then the next item within the ticks change group is the New York WAN router, then the Florida site router, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what I'm able to do here, because I chose the layout, I have 3 metrics I'm looking at, and I chose 3 columns across, I can now look across this group. I can scroll up and down and do that same kind of visual correlation. You know, is one router running hotter or cooler, using less resources than another for the metrics that I chose within the report. So I can see all the memory in one row here. I can see all the CPU in one row here, and then I can see the availability in one row here. So it's a nice way to look at grouped items and to do that kind of visual correlation as well. Okay, so those are the views. Those are the enhancements that I wanted to show you today. So let me go ahead and, Jason, is it coming back to you for Open API?
Yes, please. Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
All right, that's definitely great stuff. It's nice to see us continuing to evolve, adding more flexibility and giving you guys more control to visualize the data the way that you want to visualize it, which ties very nicely into our next section, talking about Open API. and third-party interoperability. Your data, your way, that's been our mantra for quite some time, and everything we do in the product we do with that in mind. So, just kind of looking back over the Open API, understanding the integrations that are available to us and the ways that we can leverage Open API apps. We've made some improvements in 3.1, and we wanted to also call out and make clear all of the opportunities that are available. So with our Open API, we've focused on high scale, simple, and fast. We want users to be able to very easily write queries to get specific data sets. We want those queries to perform well because we want to drive user experiences around those data sets. Those user experiences might be in the form of an Open API app, or they might be in the form of running our data in another application such as Tableau or Splunk, or name your BI vendor of choice. This gives us the ability not only to look at data in alternative ways, but to drive additional analytics, right? Looking at across multiple domains, bringing data in from various sources and running analytics across it, including our data. And the easier we make our data available, the easier it is for you to be able to do your job. And as always, we're always focusing on building an open and extensible user interface with our Open API and our dashboard mechanisms. We provide a very easy way to drive a custom user experience using our data, using some controls that we make available, and using your creativity. So I'm going to show you a few things today. So the first, and I'm not going to, we only have so much time, so I can't go into demoing everything, so I want to talk to this at a high level. We started a tech series. I know we talked about it very briefly at the beginning, but I wanted to revisit it. What we're doing is every 2 weeks or so, give or take, we've had a delay here or there, we're focusing on having an example of using Open API with very popular third-party BI tools or other applications that are popular. We began the series February 1st with a revisit of Query Builder and understanding what's new in this release and how you can take advantage of it. And we followed that up with Elasticsearch, Splunk, Tableau. And then the next session, which will be next week, we'll be looking at JavaScript with a little bit of focus on integrating with Spectrum. So we're doing some very nice things there as far as Open API apps that can integrate easily with Spectrum to show Spectrum topology information right in CA Performance Management. So that's a little bit of a teaser for those running Spectrum and PM. If you've always said, man, it'd be great to get topology data into CAPC, well, I think we have something nice to show you guys. So hopefully get a good turnout for that. But the goal being, nothing we're doing here is requiring engineering. These are all, we're using myself, and we're using pre-sales and SWOT resources, and no product changes have to be made for any of this. Because we chose to implement Open API using a standards-based approach and following web standards and understanding the technologies that people want to use, we're plug and play for quite a bit of this. We have a lot of different data formats. We have a very simple querying structure, and it makes it very easy to pull data in. So if you're interested in any of these, I would recommend going back and looking at the replays. Certainly attend the new ones to get live and have the ability to ask questions, et cetera. But I would suggest everyone go back and just look at what we can do. The Tableau one was great. It was so easy to create basically a custom map using our data and Open API data and the Tableau visualizations. And the same thing goes with Elasticsearch and Splunk. It makes life easy. What I'm going to demo today, I'm going to look at our app deployment mechanism that we introduced in 3.1, and I'm going to just walk you through a couple examples. So for those that are not aware, we have a GitHub repository that has a number of our Open API applications. If you click on an application, you'll get an overview of what that application is, a screenshot, how to install it, et cetera. Installing in 3.1 became a heck of a lot easier. You see here the installation instructions were 5 steps, not that bad, but still, who wants to do 5 steps when you can do no steps, right? So what you can do now is you can simply download the zip file from GitHub, and I have that. I've done that already ahead of time, nothing up my sleeve, just simply wanted to get things downloaded. So we're going to show you how easy it is to take a GitHub zip file. single click, and install it in your CA PC system. So there's a new option under administration called App Deployment. Brings you to this screen. This is an administrator-only feature right now because we're focusing on allowing only a subs. We want to keep the users deploying to a minimum, and then as we go and continue to build out the platform, we'll revisit that. But for the time being, what I can do is I can go and just select Browse and select one of the apps that I have downloaded. This one is my Percentile Trend app. There's an option to upgrade if it's an existing app, but this is a new app, so I'm just going to click Add. And app successfully added. Well, what is this app? If I go back and look, it's basically a trend chart that's going to show me utilization compared with multiple percentiles for any given interface. So if we go back to PC and we go to an interface context page for any of my interfaces, I can add a new tab. And in that tab, I can add a new view. Go to external links, and you're going to see a new app view. You drag the app view over, name the title, and then open the settings. You're going to see an ability to select an app via dropdown. I've installed one app. You'll notice there's two. This is one we ship out of the box on multivariate single item trend, just as an example. But this is the one I installed, multi-percentile interface utilization trend. So I select that, I see a description. My URL field is automatically populated. This is the way that we're passing information from CAPC context into a JavaScript HTML application. Things like the ID of the item, the start time, the end time, which metric, all of those go into forming the OpenAPI query that generates the data set which gets visualized. So very quickly I can go and I can save that, and what we're going to get is we're going to get that app. This is an app running in real time, custom application using OpenAPI queries. Very simple to install. As you notice, just a single click. So this is looking at utilization in percentile information. That's cool, but what if I want to look at utilization out as well? It's really, really easy to do. So what we can do is we can change the view. We'll do 2 columns, and we'll just add another one, another app view. Once again, we'll open that back up. We'll select our app. And then if we look at the README instructions, it would tell you that the one parameter you can change is this metric. This metric is using the OpenAPI convention for the names. There's a little bit of work you got to do there. We haven't yet, fully integrated a metric selector yet, but it's something on our list. So say I want to change this to out. So instead of utilization in, I just simply do utilization out. I'll save that. And now within one page, we have 2 OpenAPI apps. They run independently, but they're fully integrated into CAPC. As I change my time range context, these charts will also update. For example, I chose last 7 days, so that's going to go and get 7 days worth of data. And you can see it's our simulators with some very specific patterns to them. But again, you're going to get a fully interactive view, understanding utilization compared to, let's say, 98th percentile, and where does it go over those peaks, or if I want to look at compared to 90th percentile and understand where my utilization is and compared to my standard utilization information. I'm going to show you one more app. So another app that I download ahead of time is an application called Device Supported Metrics. What this is going to give the users the ability to, within a device context page, view for that device the metric families which are supported by it and its components, the metrics within that metric family, and then it's going to also tell me the vendor cert expressions that are used in the calculations for that specific device. So it's getting very specific at that point. So much like eHealth had a report where you would look at this type of information, now you can get this in real time in CAPC using this particular app. So I'm going to go and I'm going to browse, and very simply again, I'm just going to select this app, click Add. I'll go to a device context page. I'll add a tab. We'll call it Metrics. We'll go external links. We'll add an app view. Real simple. We'll select the app I just installed. If you notice now, the other 2 aren't there, the utilization percentile and the simple trends. That's because those are scoped to an interface. So within our app framework, you can actually scope and define where these apps should appear from a view perspective. So it's kind of our built-in, basically, view suppression, if you will. So if you know if it's an interface-based app and you only want it to be selected for interfaces, you can do that. If it's something only for dashboards, you can do that as well. This happens to be available only for devices, so we select that. Again, everything automatically populated. Just a couple of clicks to select and save. And then what we're going to get is, for this particular device here, these are all of the metric families that are supported for it and its components. So if I look at something like partition, if you select that, you're going to get a listing of the metrics with the, the friendly username and the description for this metric family. And then in the vendor cert expression, you're going to then see the actual metrics that are supported for this. So if you look at it, we have a much bigger list that's actually supported, and that's because not every device supports the full complement of metrics in a metric family. So this view is going to let you very easily go and figure out which metrics are related to each particular item. So if we look at memory, we can see I'm using my Cisco memory MIB. If we look at something like interface, my Cisco port MIB, and this is where you can really kind of understand what's truly supported and what's not supported for each given device. It's that answer to that question of, where are these metrics coming from? How can I validate if these metrics are correct? So very simple administration, very simple to install. I would recommend everyone take some time and play with this, because you unlock a lot of flexibility. We have lots of apps, and it's growing all the time. We have apps that leverage all different APIs within our platform, not just data visualization as well. So I would recommend take some time, take a look at what we have there. If you're on 3.1, installation becomes a breeze. Very simple. Download a zip file, select it, and deploy it, and it's really that easy. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our next section, which is going to be our enhanced Cisco ACI monitoring, and Matt Storman, my colleague in product management, will be walking you guys through that section. Oh, wrong.
All right. Thank you very much, Jason. So we introduced the ability to monitor Cisco ACI environments with our PM 3.0 and BNA 2.0 release. And based on some customer feedback, we've made some improvements in this release to make it easier for network operators to quickly focus on trouble areas. And these improvements include the ability to filter ACI components by health index, hover over ACI icons to view their KPIs, visualize threshold violations on ACI icons, and then finally monitor policy cam, or sometimes called TCAM, utilization on Nexus 9K switches. So let's just jump into CAPC and take a look. I think it'll make a lot more sense. Okay, so I'm going to go into the ACI console. And for those of you that may not be familiar with our ACI console, this is essentially a relationship topology of the logical overlay to the physical underlay for ACI environments. And I'm going to kind of just walk you through this console and point out the enhancements that we've made in this release. So over to the left here, you can see that we have a tree which represents the managed ACI domain. And if we kind of expand some of these branches here, you can see that the endpoints in the tree here, I can drag this, have an associated health score that comes from the ACI EPIC controller. And you can imagine that if you had a very large Cisco ACI environment, that it would be kind of tedious to walk up and down this tree to try to find the entities that have low health scores. And so what we've done is we've introduced this slider up here, which allows you to very quickly filter down the tree to only show those entities which have health scores that you deem to be problematic. Okay, so you can very easily find those endpoints with low health scores. And if we select an endpoint here, there we go. Over to the right, you can see that we're populating this relationship diagram that I'd mentioned. And you can see here we have the endpoint that I've selected. It's part of an endpoint group, and it's associated with a particular virtual machine. And you can see that virtual machine is associated with a particular virtual switch. And that virtual switch is within an ESX that has a particular hypervisor. And then that ESX is connected to a leaf switch out in the switch fabric. So the next enhancement that I wanted to show here is that we've added these hoverovers that not only allow you to see the name of the entity and the type of entity that it is, but it also shows you one or more KPIs that are relevant to that type of entity. So here for this endpoint group, you can see the KPI is the health score that comes from the Epic controller. If we go down here and look at this virtual machine, you can see that the KPIs are CPU and memory utilization. Similarly, for the B switch, we're showing CPU and memory utilization. And then if we go down to the hypervisor and the leaf, these aren't showing any KPIs, but if we had installed an SNMP agent on the hypervisor, we would see CPU and memory utilization, and the same thing for the leaf switch. If we turned on the SNMP agent on the leaf switch, we would see CPU and memory utilization. So they're very easy, just to scan over these things and get these hover pop-ups to see their KPIs. The other enhancement within this view that I wanted to point out is that we have these alert indicators. So you notice that some of these icons have a colored edge, and that signifies that one or more of the KPIs on that entity has exceeded a user-defined threshold. And you can configure those user-defined thresholds by opening up the configuration dialog for this view. And within this view, you can see that you can specify minor, major, and critical threshold levels for the ACI health score, as well as the CPU, memory, and interface utilization. And then another enhancement that I wanted to show you is on the ACI switches overview dashboard. So this is an existing dashboard that we introduced in 3.0, and you can see that it provides stats for the switches with the highest number of critical faults, CPU utilization, memory utilization, interface utilization. But what's new about this view is this new panel down here in the lower right, which unfortunately doesn't have any data. I think we have an issue with our data simulator. But this panel here shows you the switches with the highest policy CAM or TCAM utilization. And this is important because CAM memory stores the contracts that define the connectivity between endpoint groups. So if your leaf switches are running out of policy CAM memory, they may fail to support additional contracts. Some of my colleagues had attended a Cisco customer advisory board for ACI early adopters this past summer. And one of the things that, or the key takeaways that we learned at that session was that ACI TCAM memory is one of the most stressed components within an ACI environment. So it's one of those things that's very important to monitor. This is just a very simple but potentially powerful view. So that's all I had to cover for ACI. And given that we're kind of running low on time here, I'm going to move right along to the next feature that we wanted to cover, which is a site-to-site disaster recovery procedure. So in general, high availability improvements and disaster recovery are two of the most common enhancement requests that we hear from our customer base. And we do have a vision to roll out HA improvements incrementally over the next few releases. However, for this release, we decided to tackle disaster recovery. And the use case that we're trying to address here is that CAPM administrators within some companies and organizations need to have a contingency plan to be able to quickly restore historical data and ongoing monitoring at an alternate recovery site in the event of a catastrophic failure at the primary site. And so to support this, CAPM now provides a documented disaster recovery procedure. And there are essentially three major steps in this procedure that I'll touch on. The first is to set up a recovery system, and this involves deploying comparable hardware systems at the recovery location that are the same specs as what you have deployed at the primary setup. And you'll need to have the same number of data collectors, the same number of nodes within your Vertica cluster. And this recovery system is typically inactive and in a dormant state. The second major step in this procedure is to periodically update the recovery system from the primary. And this diagram might be a little difficult to see, but we try to highlight that there are three major data transfers that happen. The first is to use Vertica copy cluster to copy the data in the primary Vertica cluster to the Vertica cluster in the recovery system. And the very first time that you run that, it will take quite a bit of time because it's essentially doing a full database copy. But on subsequent runs, the copy cluster utility is smart and it'll only do incremental copies, so it'll run much faster. In addition, there are configuration and customization files that you'll need to copy from the data aggregator and the data collectors. And then at the CAPC level, you'll need to copy the MySQL database from the primary system to the recovery system. We do provide some scripts that you'll need to run to massage the data on the recovery system. And the last thing I'll mention here is that the frequency at which you perform these data transfers will depend on your tolerance for data loss on the recovery system. So for example, if you were to perform this data transfer once a day and then to stand up the recovery system, you would have at most a day's worth of data loss. If that wasn't acceptable, then you could consider doing this data transfer more frequently. And then the last step in the process is to manually activate the recovery system when and if you need it. So that sums up what I had planned to cover here for the disaster recovery procedure. And I'm going to turn it back to Jeremy.
Thank you, guys. And we are over, so I'll just quickly allow folks who are still on. If you, we have a poll question here. Matt, if you could advance that slide, if you haven't given me the ball yet. There we go. Just asking you guys what you are excited about with the new features that we just covered. And I'm sure our team can stay on if there are any. Are there any audio questions? #6 to come off of mute while you're answering that poll question. We're happy to stay on for a couple more minutes.
Jeremy, there's also a question online in the Q&A box.
All right. I know Jason's
Is it possible to copy via REST sub-content dashboards? And there's an example in there in the question.
All right. Jason or Brian? You guys still on?
Yeah, I'm here, Jeremy. I'm not seeing that question. I'm not sure if it was sent only to Suzanne, perhaps.
I don't think it's in the Q&A, not the chat.
Right.
Is it possible to copy via REST sub-content dashboards example interface tabs? Currently see an error message of the specified dashboard menu cannot be blank. When the tab is exported, it does not have a dashboard menu value 3.0. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I don't see that. Maybe if we can capture that and have that sent to Brian, I can reach out directly to whoever sent that, and we can try and figure out what's going on.
Sure.
All right. Again, thank you all for your time. I apologize we did go over a couple minutes, but I appreciate you guys staying on. And And any other follow-up questions, you guys know how to get in touch with us. We will be putting out the replay of this in the community, so look forward to that. And Sue, anything else before we close out?
No, if anyone is still on, if they want to, we have a couple of poll responses. If you want to just quickly answer the poll, that would be great. I'll keep the WebEx open for another minute or two, and then I'll close it out.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
So I don't see the poll answers.
I'll get them after. I'm seeing it go. I'm bad at polls, but
okay.
It is being answered. I do see it. We have 7 out of 11, so it is being answered. Maybe it's something about maybe just the host can see it. I'm not sure how it works, but it'll be captured afterward, the responses, and I'll send it to you. And anyone that's left on the phone call before we hang up, we will posted the WebEx recording inside the community with any notes as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining, and have a great day.